iCarly. Now this show right here is a certified classic. I remember when this show first came out and it living up to the hype as the replacement for Drake and Josh. There were some really good episodes that people remember fondly, and there are some other episodes that are strange to look back on, making you wonder why you enjoyed the show so much. Nonetheless, iCarly has remained a classic for over a decade now, and with the announcement of a revival of the show on Paramount Plus, I thought it'd be a great time to take a dive into the iCarly Iceberg. For those of you that don't know what an iceberg is, it's a type of tier list. The more well-known topics are at the top, and the deeper you go, the more obscure the topics become. Now, let's take a deep dive into the iCarly Iceberg. Here we go. Let's start this off by killing two birds with one stone. iPilot is the first episode of iCarly. Nothing crazy or anything different happens in this episode other than Sam seems a little more hostile to Freddy and Freddy seems a little more hostile to Sam. But one thing that does happen in this episode is Miss Briggs' pointy boobs joke.
Can we please discuss the boy's hair and glasses? He looks like Miss Briggs.
Yeah, except he doesn't have Miss Briggs' crazy pointy boobs.
I know. What is up with those?
It's like she stuffs waffle cones in her bra.
Totally. I mean, she could poke an eye out with one of those things.
As you can hear for yourself, the joke is pretty straightforward, and it's kind of shocking that Nickelodeon even allowed this to begin with, but then again, this was a pilot episode, so this is when you're testing the waters with your new TV show idea, so it makes sense why this got away. It's definitely a classic kind of childish humor that some people watching the show would have, so it makes sense why it was in the show to begin with. Pear instead of Apple refers to that all the iPhone, laptop, computer products in the TV show are, instead of being Apple products, they are Pear products. And there's a rather extensive list of all of these products. Here's a couple of them. They got the Pearbook 1, Pearbook 2, Pearbook 3, Pearbook Pro, Pearpad 1, Pearpad Mini, Pearpad 2, Pearpad 3, Pearpad Mini, second generation, and of course all the models of the Pearphone. Original Pearphone, Pearphone Flip Phone, Pearphone G1, Pearphone G5, Pearphone 2G, Pearphone GX, Pearphone XT, Pearphone 6, Pearphone 7, Pearphone 8, Pearphone 9. All the Pearphone products going from Pearphone XT to the rest are all included in the newer TV shows created by Dan Schneider's company, Schneider's Bakery. So while it's not technically an iCarly, the whole Pear product is shared between the Dan Schneider universe. Hell, there's even a couple of episodes that have scenes taking place in a Pear store, just like an Apple store, but with the Pear instead. A quick fact I would like to point out though is that there was actually an IRL company that had a Pear logo that Apple sued. The reason why is as follows. Technology giant Apple is apparently opposed to a 5-employee startup using a Pear logo, even if they offer something totally different. The company in question is called Prepare, an app for cooking recipes. Apple has filed a lawsuit because it says the Pear looks like the brand's iconic apple and can cause confusion among customers. Now the reason that iCarly hasn't been sued by Apple is because the Pear product falls under satire because they're kind of making fun of the whole Apple line to begin with, and Apple can't sue for that. I find it super interesting that Apple actually filed a lawsuit against a Pear related company in real life, meaning that Apple probably has some trigger fingers when this show was going on, but they couldn't do it because of the satire. Sam's Blue Remote is of course Sam's Blue Remote. It does all the effects, all the crazy lights that might happen, all the sound effects. Whatever Sam clicks on that remote, something weird is bound to happen. The main purpose of Sam's remote is for the sound effects used for iCarly. The most common ones are applause, booing, and others. According to Freddy and I Start a Fan War, there are 93 different sounds, and Freddy places the sounds that they need for the web show they're going to make that week. The remote is also used for turning on the monitor and making words pop onto the screen. It has 6 buttons and 6 LEDs. Each LED lights up according to which button is pushed. The remote has more meaning as in the very last episode, I Goodbye, Sam gives Carly the remote as she's moving away from everybody and will probably never see them again. And a little fun fact is that Dan Schneider has said on record that there is only one prop of the blue remote to ever exist, meaning that that remote you see in the TV show is the only one ever made. In the episode I Spy a Mean Teacher, there's a shrine of Randy Jackson in the closet of Miss Briggs. For those of you that don't know who Randy Jackson is, he was an American Idol judge that was extremely popular with fans, and he is currently a bassist for the band Journey. I found this episode weird back then, and I find it even weirder now that I'm older. So good job, Dan Schneider, you scarred me for life. But you know which episode didn't scar me for life? The episode I Want More Viewers, where Spencer purchases a billboard and it has the words "Please go to iCarly" written on them before it malfunctions and it reads "Pee on Carl." This scene, I remember when I saw this as a little kid, I was dying laughing. This joke still holds up even to today, so I guess that tells you how my humor has advanced a decade later. No joke, even if you're older now, this episode holds up pretty well. iCarly.com was of course iCarly's website. You can't go on it now. If you were to look it up into Google now, you'd be redirected to Nickelodeon's site. But through the Wayback Machine, you can go see what the site used to look like, and it does look exactly how I remembered it as a kid. Now, most of the stuff on the site is unviewable, but there are some blogs that were posted by Nickelodeon employees most likely, and they also have the recipe to everybody's favorite spaghetti tacos for those of y'all that are wondering what it is. I never personally went on the site more than maybe 3 times ever, just because whenever I'd look it up, it felt so sketchy to me even back then. Good thing we have the Wayback Machine, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to complete this part of the video. I Go to Japan was the first major film for iCarly that aired on Nickelodeon. The main plot of the movie is that the iCarly team are invited to the annual iWeb Awards for their show, which is taking place in Japan this year. They somehow end up on a really shoddy plane and end up skydiving into Tokyo before being taken to their hotel, where they meet 2 fellow competitors, Kyoko and Yuki. Kyoko and Yuki try to sabotage the iCarly team so they can win the awards, but are unable to. Kyoko and Yuki are then arrested, and the iCarly team heads back to America after winning the award. It's a pretty simple TV movie made after iCarly really blew up. Only in their 2nd season they had their first feature film. It doesn't hold a candle to the Drake and Josh movie, but it's still pretty good for what it was, and some of the humor does hold up a little well, like the part where they're skydiving into Tokyo. The foot scenes, now that's something really weird to talk about. Basically, what happened is that Dan Schneider was fired from Nickelodeon, and a lot of people alluded to the fact that he has a foot fetish, as in lots of episodes prior even to iCarly, he'd have lots of scenes with feet involved. According to an article, the report says Schneider worked under a cloud of suspicion because of relationships with young stars on his shows, and noted he shared photos of actresses' toes on social media. A reminder, most of these actresses were under the age of 18, so I ain't gonna show you none of those photos. You could look up the episodes yourself because, I'm sorry, that is some sick stuff. There were even 2 tweets I found of Dan Schneider asking for feet pics. Pic: Carly tickles Sam's very unusual toes. If you have a moment, will you please name Sam's toes for us? And there is a link that I am blurring out, cause I ain't letting none of you sick freaks look at that picture. Even on his other show, Sam and Cat, there's an instance of this. Sam and Cat tomorrow. Right on the bottom of your foot, take a pic and use hashtag Sam and Cat Saturday. We'll retweet and follow until our fingers get sore. And to add a little more to Dan's whole obsession with feet, Critical got Noah Monk, the actor that played Gibby, onto the official podcast for an episode, and they were talking about Dan Schneider's foot fetish, and here's what he had to say.
No. Well, you said you came prepared for this question, and I know our audience is itching for it. We've already gotten a couple of questions. Give us some dirt on Schneider. Is it true with the feet?
You know, I know what you know in the sense that I've seen...
Well, I'm sorry, no, I just got to, before we dive into that, just so people are aware, give us also a rundown of who Schneider is and if you worked with him, or just so people are aware.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah, well, Schneider created iCarly. So I know him really well. That's the thing where I was sort of, I mean, if that shit went on, I'm fucking like, that's devastating to me because I don't see him in that light, you know? So watching clips on YouTube and shit of that is like crazy. But I mean, the foot fetish shit is like, okay, bro, come on. Like, I never really noticed that when I was 15 on the show, but of course, looking in retrospect, it's like, okay, all right.
All the pieces fell into place.
There's finally official confirmation from a cast member that, yeah, Dan Schneider definitely had something going on. He just didn't notice it at the time because he was a kid. Dan, the man with the plan, Schneider, definitely had something going on, and I'd say it's a good thing that Nickelodeon did fire him. The Victorious crossover is referring to the episode I Partied with Victorious, where the iCarly crew and the Victorious crew come together for one giant episode. The plot of the episode revolves around Carly dating a boy named Steven, who lives in both Seattle and Los Angeles because his parents are divorced. However, Steven is also dating Tori Vega, the main character of Victorious, whenever he goes to Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, the Victorious crew is throwing a party where Sam finds a picture of Tori and Steven together, and Sam wants to get to the bottom of things, so the whole iCarly team decide to go to the party. They get to the party, Carly and Tori find out that Steven is cheating on both of them, and they expose him to the rest of the people at the party before singing a mashup of their two shows' theme songs, Leave It All to Me and Make It Shine, called Leave It All to Shine. I remember this episode fondly because I remember the whole hype behind it, two of these shows combined together, plus I remember specifically it was the first time I can remember hearing Ariana Grande sing, and I realized, oh, she can actually sing, it's just not a TV show thing. And as we all know, Ariana Grande is one of the biggest pop stars at the moment. So in the new iCarly reboot, Miranda Cosgrove, Nathan Kress, and Jerry Trainer have been confirmed to be coming back to play their old roles, but Jeanette McCurdy will not be returning. In a recent episode as a guest on Anna Faris's Empty Inside podcast, she said she quit acting a few years ago to try her hand at writing and directing, adding that she never wanted to act in the first place, but that it was her mother that got her into the showbiz as a kid.
I'm curious to ask you, like, how do you feel about that? How does that feel for you? Like, you're on hit shows, like you're a big name. Like, how is that? Does that mean anything to you, or do you not care? Like, what is that for you?
Dude, no, that's such a good question. It's like, it's the thing that I feel the most shame of in my entire life. I do not like any of the acting work that I have ever, like any of the projects that I've been a part of as an actor. And even talking about it, honestly, my heart starts to race, and like I feel like I almost could cry. It brings me, I know that like the shows, that some people liked the shows and like kids liked the shows, and I think that's great that they liked them, but for me it was really hugely negative on my self-esteem and on my mental health, and I think largely contributed to so many eating disorders. And it's like, it's a thing that kind of haunts me, and I feel like I'm at this place now. I quit acting a couple years ago, and I was like, fuck, I know what I want to do. I want to write, I want to direct, I'm going to work my ass off to try and make that happen in whatever capacity I can. But in this interim, in this space where I haven't had success in the way that I want to have it, in the thing that I want to do, I just feel like I've got this thing on my back, this like weight, this thing that haunts me that I'm not at peace with. I'm trying. That's the thing. I would say that's what I'm working on, like in therapy now, because before there were just so many other priorities. But now that like I have, I don't have substance abuse issues or eating disorders, now it's like I can get to the kind of underbelly stuff, and this is what's there for me. It's like I feel so much pain and like weird self-loathing about the stuff that I've done in the past that I just want it to, I wish I could just do something else that like wipes that off the face of the earth. But
in the podcast, you can definitely tell that she really regretted her acting, and she really did not enjoy her time. She enjoyed that other people enjoyed watching her, but she hated it personally. It sucks to see that she's not returning for the reboot, but there's always a little hope that they might convince her to come back for maybe 1 or 2 episodes just for fans' sake. But for now, Jeanette McCurdy will not be returning, and it is what it is. She's made her choice, and you gotta respect that. In the episode I Make Sam Girlier, there's a scene where Drake Bell is seen inside Sam's locker as her and Carly talk. However, this isn't the only time we see Drake Bell in the TV show, but we'll get to that later. You'll rue this day is a popular catchphrase uttered by Neville Papperman, one of the antagonists of the iCarly web show. Neville first utters this sentence when he and Carly meet up together and he steals a kiss from her, causing Carly to shove chocolate in his face and him exclaiming, "You'll rue this day, you'll rue it!" The catchphrase became immediately popular within the TV show, and the actor that played Neville, Reed Alexander, even still has people asking him to say it to this very day.
You'll rue the day. You'll rue it.
I can't.
Oh, God.
Creddy and Seti is the romantic shipping between Carly and Freddie, or Sam and Freddie. There's also other ships such as Cam, Carly and Sam, Sibby, Sam and Gibby, and Spam, Spencer and Sam. I do not feel comfortable delving any further into this just because they were children at the time this stuff was a thing, and that is some weird stuff to me. Melanie is the identical twin to Sam. She was only in the episode I, Twins, and she is mentioned in other episodes but never seen past this one. She is the polar opposite of Sam. Whereas Sam is known as the tough, tomboyish girl, Melanie is known as what you would think of a typical girl. She is of course portrayed by Jeanette McCurdy as well, because Jeanette McCurdy does not have a twin sister in real life. The last episode that Melanie is mentioned in is I, Sam's mom. After that, she's not mentioned for the rest of the series. Nevelocity.com was a website created by Neville, and he created it because he was bored of seeing a bunch of lame websites on the internet and decided to give himself a shot. At one point, Nevelocity was one of the world's most visited websites that got 5 million views per day. If you were to type in Nevelocity.com now, you'd be directed to the Nick website again, but through the Wayback Machine, you could see that even if you type it in through there, it would direct you to the old iCarly site. So Nevelocity.com never existed in real life, it was just another link to iCarly's website. It kinda sucks they never made an actual website for Neville, but if they did, that would have been some of the coolest stuff ever. That would have expanded the iCarly lore to astronomical levels, but at least it still led to the old iCarly site, so it was working somehow. David Schwimmer, as we all know, is the dude from Friends. You know, that one TV show that was a little bit popular in the 90s, you know, just another show people used to watch. Well, in iCarly, he was mentioned in a total of 4 episodes. David Schwimmer was first mentioned in the episode I Want My Website Back by the character of Mandy when she asked the iCarly team if they liked David Schwimmer. The second time is in the episode I Meet Fred, where at the very end Fred randomly yells, "What's wrong with David Schwimmer?" The third time is in the episode I Believe in Bigfoot, when Freddy mentions David Schwimmer is being featured on Celebrities Underwater and states he's not moving, implying that he might have drowned. And lastly, in the episode I Tow Fat Cakes, Sam wins a DVD of a movie directed by David Schwimmer as part of her reward for going 10 days without getting in trouble. It would have been pretty crazy if they got David Schwimmer in for an episode, but alas, that never happened. There's still a chance it could happen in the revival, but I don't think that would happen at all. He's a busy actor, and plus it would probably cost a pretty penny to get him in. The Shea apartment is where most of iCarly takes place. It starts off on apartment floor 8-C, which include the living room, the kitchen, Spencer's room, a bathroom, and of course the elevator that goes into their apartment building. The second floor includes Carly's bedroom and a second bathroom, and the third floor is where the iCarly studio is at, where they film the iCarly episodes. It's assumed that there's some sort of space behind the studio just because they pull out guests from behind a curtain, so there's probably a little bit more going on there than what we see in the show. The living room itself is decorated with lots of junk, I would say, and it's assumed that Spencer got a lot of this junk from nearby junkyards or the trash cans or whatever so he could build his inventions. On the shelf in the kitchen and some of the backgrounds, there's a cookie time jar that appears exactly just like the one that was in Friends. Also, the chain lock in the door that you see throughout the show, in the first couple episodes of season 1, there actually is no chain lock whatsoever, and about halfway through they finally added it, probably alluding to the fact that their web show got popular and they needed more privacy. There's plenty of other strange little details about the Shea apartment that are out there, but my personal favorite out of these 3 I chose was the cookie time jar. That's a pretty good callback to Friends, I ain't gonna lie. Guppy Gibson is Gibby's little brother. His first appearance was in the episode I, Psycho, where they go and rescue the iCarly trio, and he's also seen sparingly in a couple other episodes. His main catchphrase is "Happy Birthday" after continually saying it throughout the I, Psycho episode. The actor that plays Guppy is Ethan Monk, the real-life little brother of Noah Monk. Pac-Rat is an old arcade game that makes its first and only appearance in the episode I Stage an Intervention. It's an obvious reference to Pac-Man, Pac-Rat, Pac-Man, plus when you see Spencer playing the game, it looks exactly as Pac-Man does. The whole plot behind I Stage an Intervention is that Spencer becomes addicted to the game, so the iCarly crew come and find an old world record holder so they could go one-on-one and see who wins. Spencer eventually wins, and finally puts the game down for good so he could get back to his sculpture making. I remember this episode very fondly because I knew as soon as I saw that Pac-Rat machine, I'm like, yup, that's a Pac-Man ripoff. And it's been stuck in my head pretty much for the rest of my life. Nora Dershlit was the main antagonist in the episodes I, Psycho and I Still Psycho. She was the one that trapped the iCarly team in the recording booth in the episode I, Psycho where Gibby and Guppy rescue them. She is shown to be unpopular as on her birthday in the episode I, Psycho, nobody came to the party even after she invited the iCarly crew. And to sum up her weirdness, she has a pet chicken named Maurice. So iCarly, Victorious, and Sam and Cat do take place in the same shared universe. As seen from earlier in iParty of Victorious, the Victorious crew and the iCarly crew meet up with each other. And the whole premise of Sam and Cat is Sam from iCarly and Cat from Victorious end up living together. And the episode that ties all 3 of these series together is the Sam and Cat episode #Super Psycho. In that episode, Nora escapes from prison and tries to enact revenge on Sam. We also see appearances from Neville and Gibby again, with the whole episode being a parody on Silence of the Lambs. We also see an appearance of Crazy Steve from Drake and Josh, so perhaps Drake and Josh is also somehow tied in with iCarly, Victorious, and Sam and Cat. Super Psycho is actually a pretty good episode tying all 3 shows together, so I'd actually recommend watching this when you get the time. In an episode of Victorious, I couldn't find which episode, there is an iCarly magnet on the fridge in the background, tying the 2 shows together once more. Missy Robinson was Carly's former best friend before she moved out of Seattle. She then returned in the episode I Reunite with Missy, but she tries to tear Carly and Sam's friendship apart, but fails in doing so, causing her and Carly not to be friends anymore. Missy is played by Haley Ram, which is actually Miranda Cosgrove's in real life best friend. They've known each other since they filmed the movie Yours, Mine, and Ours, meaning they've been best friends for almost 2 decades now. There's always a chance they could bring back Missy for an episode in the new iCarly revival. Is it likely? No, but there's still a chance. Magic Malika was a character seen in the episode I Speed Date. She's basically a girl that asked Freddy out and she has magic powers when she did it. She teleports away and replaces her with Gibby eating a banana, and then in the groovy smoothie, she levitates Freddy's cell phone and makes his smoothie light on fire. She eventually has to leave due to her being over curfew, and she teleports herself home and is never seen again throughout the entire series. She's a very weird character. I remember her in the show and I remember not enjoying the episode at all just because she kind of creeped me out, and looking back, she's still pretty creepy. Now before we get into Chuck's little brother, I would like to remind you guys about Chuck himself. You remember Chuck, the guy who would torture and torment Spencer on a nightly basis just for his own sake. Chuck was a pretty nasty kid and he would do lots of messed up things to people just to get his way. Like in one episode, he was stealing everybody's TV remotes because if he couldn't watch TV for being grounded, nobody could. Well, Chuck was sent to a military camp and was never seen again, but we do get to see his little brother, Chip. In the episode I Battle Chip, Chip makes his first and only appearance when he tries to torture the iCarly crew because he hates the fact that Spencer sent Chuck to military school for all the things he'd done to him. He tries to ruin the web show by making a bunch of loud music above the whole crew, but at the very end of the episode his plan is foiled when one of Gibby's tools explodes and glues him to elevator doors. Chip's fate is left unknown as we never see him in the show ever again, and nobody knows if his father grounded him for what he did, but assuming if he sent Chuck to military school, he probably sent Chip to military school. Throughout the entire series, there is not a single mention of Carly and Spencer's mom whatsoever. The only mention we get of their parents is their father, who appears in the very last episode of the series, I Goodbye. There's not a single part where they mention anything about their mother, or oh, where's mom, or how's she doing? Nothing. The producers even decided to play with this a little bit in the Sam and Cat episode #SuperPsycho when Neville asks,
"A question.
Yeah?
How come we never heard anything about Carly's mother?"
All right. Kill me!
It's safe to say that we'll never know anything about Carly and Spencer's mother, but there's a chance in the revival, as I've been saying, that they might delve into it a little bit deeper than they did in the series. Will they? I highly doubt it. It's become a joke to them at this point, and it's fun to keep up jokes like that. Baby Will You Take Me Back is the song sung by the fictional band Backflesh, which appears in the episode I Am Your Biggest Fan. Backflesh is a fictional band made for the iCarly show, but the song is actually a real song by the band Backhouse Mike. The song itself sounds pretty basic, but it gets the job done, and lots of people in the YouTube comments say this is the first time they ever heard the song from the band, so I'm sure it helped them out in a way. Ginger Fox is a fictional singer featured in the episode I Fix a Pop Star, where the iCarly crew is hired so they can revitalize her music career. The crew soon realizes that the task is virtually impossible because Ginger Fox is extremely lazy and is all washed up. They eventually do make a very shoddy music video for her, which they didn't like, but it ended up revitalizing her career and now she's popular again. Ginger Fox is a clear reference to Britney Spears almost to the T. Same hair, same kind of pop sounding songs, people seeing her as washed up and lazy. It all reminds me of the early 2000s when Britney Spears was going through a rough time. I Fix a Pop Star is the only episode she's ever seen in person, but she is mentioned in an episode of Victorious and an episode of Henry Danger. I'm sure Britney Spears was okay with this parody of her due to her sister Jamie Lynn being on another Dan Schneider show, Zoe 101, so they had ties within each other, so everything seems to be good. In the episode I Twins, Carly sees a hidden camera footage of Chuck beating up Spencer, and in order to get revenge on Chuck, when she's teaching him math, she makes up a new number called DERF. It goes between 5 and 6 and looks like an upside down 4 rather than an actual number. Chuck fails his math test and is sent to a math camp called Camp Add 'em Up for the whole summer due to the number being used. In the episode I Got a Hot Room, we get our first look at Carly's room, unfortunately burnt down due to Spencer accidentally setting it on fire. At the very end of the episode though, we get a look at Carly's brand new room, which is full of all this cool stuff. Carly's room is located on the second floor of their apartment between the iCarly studio and the main floor. Speaking of the second floor of the apartment, there is no known layout of how the second floor actually looks. All we know is that Carly's room is there and that there's a restroom. There's a possibility that there might be another room or two on that floor, but we'll never know for sure. Sam's mom is frequently talked about throughout the show in a negative light, saying how she doesn't care about her daughter and she barely does anything for her. The first time we see her is in the episode I, Sam's Mom, where she is played by famous Glee actress Jane Lynch. The episode revolves around Sam and her mom Pam having a really bad argument, with Sam living with Carly and Spencer, but she quickly wears out their patience by all the weird things that she does. Carly sets up a therapy session where they all get into a therapy box together, and soon enough Sam and Pam reconcile, with Carly freaking out due to her claustrophobia. I remember this episode pretty fondly, and it does hold up pretty well even to today's standards. Carly's dad is mentioned sparingly throughout the show, and we don't get our first look at him until the very last episode in I Goodbye, where he's played by actor David Chisholm. Carly's dad is a US Air Force colonel and currently lives somewhere near Anchorage, Alaska. It is assumed that he's been on tour the entire time the iCarly TV show takes place. In the episode I Goodbye, he meets up with Carly to take her to the father-daughter dance at their high school, and then tells her that he's going to be moving to Italy and if she would like to come along. Carly wants to go along because that's her father, so they have to end the iCarly TV show for the meantime while Carly goes to live with them. The entire episode itself is a pretty good last episode for a TV series, and so far it's the only time we see Carly's father, but that can all change in the revival. Locker 239 is seen in the episode I Must Have Locker 239. It's not one, but 4 lockers combined into one after the construction of the school went awry. The whole episode revolves around Sam and Freddy competing with each other to see who could get the locker, but at the very end of the episode, Sam's mom drives right through the school, destroying the locker. The locker is not rebuilt or mentioned in the show ever again. Socko is a character frequently talked about throughout the TV show. He's a guy that sells socks for a living, hence the name Socko. His socks are first seen in the episode I Want More Viewers, you know, the one where Pee on Carl happens. He is frequently talked about throughout the show whenever Spencer needs some help, and he also has some family members such as Taylor, who's a tailor, Rob, who's a burglar, and Tyler, who makes ties. I remember as a kid, I would always hear the characters talk about Socko whenever they needed some help, and I'd always think to myself, well, how come we haven't seen him yet? Now I get it. It's a perfect way to keep kids interested in the show. Not only is the show entertaining, you have something else keeping the kids interested. Mandy is the self-proclaimed iCarly's biggest fan. She first appeared in the episode I Am Your Biggest Fan, where she basically bothers Sam and Carly so much to the point where they don't like her almost immediately. Her second and last appearance in this series is on the episode I Want My Website Back, when Neville tricked her into thinking he was Freddy so he could steal iCarly.com. In both episodes, the crew seems to highly dislike her, but Mandy doesn't seem to realize this, perhaps because she's just so starstruck that she's with the iCarly crew to begin with. She's also considered one of the main antagonists of the entire series, despite only being in 2 episodes. Ooh, the original pitch. Ooh, this is something that's super interesting. Okay, so, right here I found this on IMDb. The original title of the show was Starstruck, and the plot followed Carly, a regular girl who is cast on her favorite TV show. The idea was then changed to her getting her own show, and then changed to her creating her own web show. I think this was a very smart move by Dan Schneider, just because the internet was starting to become really popular with the kids, and having a TV show where 2 kids host an online TV show, it was a recipe for success no matter what. I still wonder a little bit though, if they went with the original idea, would the show have been as successful or as popular? We'll never know, and hey, maybe that's a good thing because iCarly's still a pretty good TV show. Gibby was a potential iCarly spinoff just like Sam and Cat that was conceived around sometime in 2012. The show would have revolved around, of course, Gibby getting a job at a recreational center where he ended up becoming some sort of mentor to 4 offbeat middle school students. While the pilot episode is unaired as of this day, there are screenshots of Dan Schneider's website and on the website setdesignshop.com showing what the Gibby set looked like. This one especially interests me just because they have an unaired pilot out there. It's out there, someone has it on their hard drive, someone has to go to Dan Schneider and Nickelodeon and get that pilot episode out there, because I want to see what it would have looked like with Gibby having his own spin-off show. But for now, all we have is the title card and the set screenshots. There were 2 soundtracks released in iCarly. One is iCarly soundtrack, and the other is iCarly iSoundtrack 2, music from and inspired by the hit TV show. The first soundtrack is full of some pretty middling music, but it of course has the opening theme Leave It All to Me, sung by Miranda Cosgrove and Drake Bell. The second soundtrack is Miranda Cosgrove just singing over some other songs and some just random songs from random producers like Hot and Cold by Katy Perry, Blow by Kesha, and Dynamite by Teo Cruz. Nothing beats the show's opening theme though, that song is unironically pretty freaking good. Since iCarly was such a popular show, there's bound to be merchandise for it. Now there's not much now, but I remember back when the show was popping, it was everywhere at your local Walmart, Target, whatever store you went to, they had it. Nowadays, the most merch I see is on redbubble.com, with my personal favorite being Gibby got the Stiffy sticker. There were 2 iCarly Wii games released. The first one was more of just a party game, whereas the second one had a little bit more going on for it, but TV show video games, I think you guys know what to expect from these. Of course, since this is an iCarly video game, I'm sure Dan Schneider had some say in it. As you can see right here at the beginning of the first game, you got a little email that showed up within the game reading this. Hey guys, I'm a big fan of your I Bite segments. Have you tried biting socks? The fluffier the better. Just don't try biting socks when someone's still wearing them. My dad still hasn't forgiven me for that. Dan, the long divider Schneider, back at it again. Even in video games, his appreciation for feet is still seen by all. Freddy's dad is never named and seldom mentioned throughout the entire series. However, in the episode Ice Speed Date, Dan Schneider accidentally released part of the script in a photo and promptly deleted it. But as you can see here, if you make it out closely, you can see that Freddy's dad's name was supposed to be Leonard Benson. It's unknown why this part of the script was cut from the entire episode. They probably just wanted to keep the secret up so they could do a bigger reveal with possibly a better actor at one point, which they never got to doing. Fred. Now I know you guys remember Fred. I hope most of you guys watching this remember Fred, because I know some people actually don't know who this guy was. Fred was the first person to hit 1 million subscribers on YouTube. His name is Lucas Cruikshank in real life, and he made a lot of crazy, annoying videos on YouTube. Now I was a huge fan of Fred at the time, so when I saw he had his own iCarly episode coming up, that was one of the first memories in my head of me being hyped for something. In the episode I Meet Fred, the iCarly crew play a clip of one of Fred's videos where Freddy proclaims that he's not funny. The kids at the school as well as the iCarly viewers don't like this and they start to lose viewership. So they go to Fred's house to apologize, which he gladly accepts, and then they shoot an episode of Fred together. As a kid, this episode was all the hype, it was amazing. Watching it back for making this video, I hated the episode. I understand why adults hated Fred now. This episode is a very important episode for internet culture and the TV show in general. This showed that outside internet culture in real life can affect the TV show, and that the TV show was willing to accept how big the internet culture is truly becoming. I think this episode right here was like the main turning point in iCarly from just another Dan Schneider show to something on the level of Drake and Josh. Lucas Cruikshank did get his own Fred movies and a Fred TV show on Nickelodeon, so perhaps Fred is related to iCarly. We may never know. One thing's for certain, Fred is an old school YouTube classic and you cannot take that away. Throughout the show iCarly, there are parts where Fred randomly speaks Spanish for no apparent reason. The most common fan theory is that the microchip in Fred's head is what causes this to happen, as in one episode, it was stated that it was installed by a questionable Venezuelan doctor. In the final episode I Goodbye, Gibby asks Freddy why does he talk in Spanish sometimes, and Freddy is about to answer but is interrupted and it is never revealed why. Perhaps in the revival they might get to explaining it, but I think this is something that is best kept a secret. Marissa is Freddy's mother and she is a recurring character throughout the entire show's run. She's shown to be very overprotective of Freddy, giving him constant bats and constantly getting mad at him for any little thing he does. There are some episodes out there where we learn a little bit more about her, such as the episode I Fence, where it turns out that she used to be a professional fencer at one point before giving it up. She seems to only tolerate Carly and Sam, and doesn't really seem to like Spencer that much just because of his childish nature. Overall, she's a very overprotective character, but one of the better side characters throughout the entire show's run. Girly Cow is a fictional cartoon that is shown on iCarly a couple times and is mentioned in Zoe 101 and Drake and Josh as well. It looks to be a parody on the Cartoon Network show Cow and Chicken. During the show's opening title sequence, you can see Girly Cow as one of the linked tabs on Freddy's computer, and if you look up girlycow.com online, you'll be redirected to Nickelodeon's iCarly page. Jeremy, nicknamed Jeremy because he's constantly sick, is one of the students that goes to the high school with Carly, Sam, and Freddy. It was rumored that he has been sick since the 1st grade and has been called the germiest kid by the whole school. According to Freddy, he was said to be a pretty good cameraman, except he cannot stop seizing, so the camera always tends to go up and down. It is also revealed that he's allergic to pigs, which might be one of the reasons why he's constantly sick and sneezing at school. In the episode I blooper, the cast and crew go over some of the bloopers that they filmed while filming the show. One of the bloopers includes Drake Bell walking in the frame, and I'll just show you guys the rest.
Because I've been worried about your posture.
Hey, Liam.
Hi.
Who's she?
I don't believe I know you.
Where's Josh? Where's Mom and Dad?
I remember seeing this as a kid. That was one of the most exciting moments ever. Seeing Drake Bell on iCarly, calling Carly Megan, asking where Josh and Mom and Dad were. It was a little kid's dream come true. In the episode I Party with Victorious, Gibby is seen wearing a Drake and Josh hat, referencing, of course, Dan Schneider's previous show, Drake and Josh. In the episode I Find Lubert's Lost Love, we are introduced to Lubert's ex-girlfriend Marta Trundle. At first she seems like a normal person, but as the episode goes on you start to see that she is very unhinged and downright psychotic at times. The episode starts off with the crew finding Marta and introducing her back to Lubert. They soon find out that she is very psychotic, and at the end of the episode, Lubert escapes her by attacking a cop, thereby getting a 6-month prison sentence. In the episode I Will Date Freddy, Freddy's ex-girlfriend Valerie uses him to make her own website, The Valerie Show. It's basically like iCarly, except it's not iCarly so it's not good, and the show falls flat on its face as soon as it starts. After the episode is never seen or mentioned again, but it's assumed that the show fell into obscurity rather quick. And of course, if you look up The Valerie Show on Google, you'll be redirected to Nickelodeon's iCarly page. Throughout the first season of iCarly, Freddy is seen wearing these ugly looking shoes, and in a recent interview on the Believe Podcast Network on Twitter, Nathan Kress himself confirmed the reason he had to wear those is because he was so short.
iCarly was on Nickelodeon, of course, back in the day. Nathan, how old were you when you first started on that show?
I think I just turned 14.
Wow.
But a young 14, like an 11-year-old looking 14. So nobody would really know that. I was I was prepubescent, and so I was shorter than both of the girls. And after my screen test, I think they realized that and decided to put me in giant platform shoes for the entire first season. Like, I'm talking like 70s, like 2 to 3 inch soles,
like disco dancing.
Yep. It looked like I was about ready for Friday night.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was bad.
Saturday
it was really,
night.
really
Saturday
bad.
Night
Do you
fever.
still have them?
Yeah. See, mine was on Fridays. Yeah, they're everywhere. They're on the internet. Trust me. I've been lampooned for my shoes literally to this day.
I never realized it was that much of an issue. I saw the shoes, I'm like, yeah, they look ugly, whatever. None of my friends ever mentioned anything beyond just, oh, ugly shoes. But apparently this has affected him for a very long time now. Wendy was a reoccurring character throughout the second season of iCarly, and she was a pretty popular character among fans just because she seemed very organic with the whole crew, and the antics that she did were actually interesting to a lot of people. For example, in the episode I Fence, she invites Sam with her to throw balloons filled with mayonnaise at Mrs. Briggs' car. As I watched some of the episodes while looking about information of Wendy, I kinda came to the conclusion in my head that she might have been the original person that was supposed to be what Gibby eventually became, like a main character, but Gibby became more popular than her. Wendy never made an appearance past season 2, so it's safe to say what I thought might have ended up becoming true. Don't get me wrong, Wendy was a cool character, but she was up against Gibby, and we all know who's gonna win that. In the episode I Must Have Locker 239, the main plot is, of course, getting Locker 239, but the subplot involves Carly trying to learn how to draw a bunny after this happened on a live iCarly episode. She she asks Spencer to help him out, and he draws his own bunny to show her how to draw one. Unfortunately, Carly is unable to learn how to draw a bunny as she's just confused with the whole concept of art to begin with. The classroom set that is frequently used throughout the iCarly show is actually the same classroom set also used in Saved by the Bell. In the episode I Was a Pageant Girl, it is explained that people don't like Carly's special lemonade, which is a reference to Drake and Josh, because in the Drake and Josh episode The Storm, people don't like Josh's limonade. Penny Tees are a t-shirt company run by Sako's sister Penny. They're basically like any other t-shirt, except the left hem of the shirt holds a penny on it and is colored differently than the right hem. They also have their own episode dedicated to them in I Sell Penny Tees, where a group of 4th graders that worked for the iCarly penny tee company steals the penny tee idea and starts earning money off of it. They are often seen with very strange quotes such as Mustache Sally and Blueberry Socks. They are frequently seen throughout the show, so if you're watching any episode, just look at the shirts they're wearing. If they have some sort of weird quote on it, it's a penny tee. I also noticed as I was watching an episode, in Carly's new room after it's rebuilt after the fire, there seems to be a penny tee pillow on her bed, so perhaps they make more than just t-shirts. In the episode I Get Pranky, Sam admits that she has a little crush on Spencer.
Dude, if I didn't have a little crush on you, you'd be falling for my baseball bat to your face, bitch.
Spencer is shown to be a ladies' man throughout the TV show, and he has dated a couple of eccentric people, such as his girlfriend Connie the Juggler, Lori Ackerman, one of the teachers at the high school, and one of Carly's former art teachers in the episode, I Must Have Locker 239, which I constantly keep mentioning throughout this video. He doesn't seem to hold any of these relationships for very long, as it's more of just a one and done type of deal, but in the episode I Win a Date, he does try a dating site called Why Not Date Me to see what could happen. Unfortunately, things don't go Spencer's way, as 4 of the women who replied are in prison, 3 of them just got out of prison, 2 of them were psychologists who felt they could help him, and 1 of them was a man. Even though Spencer's a ladies' man, he can't seem to hold a relationship together, and I'm sure that's an aspect that's going to carry over into the revival. What did the goat do? Well, the goat was first mentioned in the episode I Got a Hot Room when they asked what happened to the goat in Carly's last birthday, and she gets upset about it. It is never further elaborated what the goat did, so that led to people thinking, well, what did the goat do? On Dan Schneider's website Dan Warp, I found a blog post from July of 2012 where he answered a bunch of questions that people asked him. One of the questions was, what did the goat do to Carly? And this is the answer that the person got. Haha, I get asked this question so much. You know who asked it a lot? Miranda Cosgrove, no kidding. Even she doesn't know. And the fact is, neither do I. When we wrote the script, the writers and I had fun thinking about things the GOAT might have done, but we all had different ideas. And as you know, it was never stated in the episode. So, this one was up to your own imagination. There is no correct answer, it's anyone's guess. But I have a feeling I'll be asked this question by fans for a long, long time. So there you have it, folks. Nobody knows what the GOAT did, not even the writers. At this point, it's all up to interpretation, so I'll let you guys decide what the GOAT did to Carly. Hobknocker is a term first heard in the episode I Rock the Vote, where one of the characters named Wade calls people a hobknocker, much to the disgust of Carly and Sam. While it is never explained what hobknocker means, I did do a little bit of my own research and I think I got a little answer on what it might mean. A hob can be a cooking device like a metal plate placed next to an open fire, and the word knocker in British slang means a woman's chest or a male guy engaged in actions with another female person. Let's just put it lightly like that. So hobknocker is a combination of hob, cooking device, and the woman's chest or the male engaging in the relations with the woman. And to further prove that it might be this reason, in the UK airings of iCarly, the word hobknockers is actually taken out so the children can't hear it. So it's safe to say that hobknockers means a man that does relations with a metal pen. Even though the show doesn't explain what it means, when you just take British slang and put the two together, you get that. iJosie.com is more than just a website with I and a random name in it. It was actually the original name for the TV show. Josie was one of the names on the board, but they eventually changed it to Carly. And as a matter of fact, the original names for the characters for Carly was Sam, and the original name for Sam was Kira, but they changed it to Carly and Sam. Great calls by Dan Schneider because iJosie would not have the same ring and it wouldn't roll off the tongue as well as iCarly. The website today doesn't lead to nowhere, it just leads to some random hosting site, so for anybody who wants the domain, it's out there as far as I can tell. When iCarly was first released on Netflix, all the episodes were out of order, much to the dismay of everybody. The reason they were out of order is not because Netflix just chose random websites off their computer mouse and just plopped them wherever, it's because of the production dates the episode were made. For example, let's say you're on season 2 episode 15. That episode may have aired as the 15th episode, but it might have been the first episode produced in the entire season. So when Netflix got a hold of iCarly, they just had the production codes placed instead of the actual season airings. So episode 15, instead of it being where it's supposed to be, the 15th episode, it would end up being aired as the first episode. I've seen this happen with other TV shows before. It's nothing that isn't normal. It's not necessarily laziness, it's just when you're rushing a TV show that's in high demand, you kind of want to get it out there as quick as you possibly can and then fix the episode orders later. So there's apparently an uncensored version of Girly Cow out there. The only mention I could find of it was on another one of Dan Schneider's blog posts dated back on February of 2010, where he mentions that Spencer is a fan of the uncensored version of Girly Cow. What does this consist of? Dan never elaborates any further, so I'm assuming it's just instead of bad words being bleeped out or silenced, bad words are said. The Dingo channel is first mentioned in the episode I Take on Dingo, where the iCarly crew tries to stop the writers from plagiarizing their show and making Totally Terry. It just seems like another iCarly episode. When you take a little dive into it, the Dingo channel kinda sounds like the Disney Channel. And around the same time that iCarly was being run on the Disney Channel, there was this show called Sunny with a Chance, where a girl gets the opportunity to be on her favorite TV show. Now what does that sound like? That sounds like the original script for iCarly's Starstruck that was eventually scrapped and then replaced with what we have now. So it sounds like the Dingo channel is supposed to be the Disney Channel and basically Nickelodeon poking fun at them. And to add a little more validity to this claim, there's a German animation studio called Dingo Pictures, which basically makes poor quality Disney movie knockoff films. There's other videos on YouTube that go into what Dingo Pictures consist of, but it's safe to say that this was Nickelodeon taking a jab at Disney for stealing the Starstruck idea after it was scrapped. So by now we all know that when Freddy counts down he says 5, 4, 3, 2, but he never says 1. Well, in the episode I Won't Cancel the Show, Freddy claims he knows why he doesn't say 1, but Carly doesn't let him speak.
Why isn't Freddy saying 5, 4, 3, 2, 1?
No one knows.
I know.
No one cares.
It looks like we will never know why Freddy never says 1, and it's safe to say that'll probably carry over into the revival show. The iCarly Robot Chicken skit is about Carly accidentally filming herself showering. I can't show the full version for you guys here because that'd be copyright, but you can find it on YouTube rather easy. It's typical Robot Chicken humor, so it's pretty funny. And for those of you guys that haven't seen Robot Chicken, I highly recommend it. It's actually a pretty interesting show. The Crazy Steve theory goes as follows. Crazy Steve murdered Drake and Josh along with their families, kidnapped Megan, escaped to Seattle with her, made her pretend that he is her older brother, changed his name to Spencer and hers to Carly. So that nobody be suspicious, Spencer made up a fake background story to their lives, claiming that their father was in the United States Navy and their mother was presumably dead. Obviously we know by now, their father was in the Navy, and if you see Crazy Steve in prison in that Sam and Cat episode, doesn't that mean he's in prison? Meaning that there's no way for him to steal Megan and change her name to Carly. The Crazy Steve theory was just another one of those internet creepypasta theories thrown about just for the sake of adding a little bit of tension or whatnot to a TV show that otherwise looks normal. That is all of the iCarly Iceberg. This one was very fun to go through because I was able to watch one of my favorite TV shows growing up as a kid again, and I was able to make an interesting YouTube video out of it. My favorite entry out of all of them was probably the Gibby pilot because I had never heard of the Gibby pilot before. I'm surprised I never heard of it. I like obscure facts like that, and I had never even seen the title card before. So to learn about the Gibby pilot and the fact that it's out there, no one's seen it aired, it's probably on somebody's hard drive just sitting there collecting dust, just makes it that much more exciting. I want to hear what part of the iceberg that you guys enjoyed the most. I know lots of people are probably gonna like that Drake Bell scene. When I saw that as a little kid, I was ecstatic. I was like, oh my god, it's Drake from Drake and Josh and iCarly. This is the best thing ever. Make sure to tell me your favorite part in the comments below. I hate the fact that this video is ending, but all videos have to end. I hope you guys learned something new from this. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like and subscribe. And as always, with all of that out of the way, I will see you guys later.